Dear God, today is a session.
Anyone who serves in the decision-making process.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Here.
Counselor Kennedy. Counselor Leahy. Counselor Laurie. Counselor Martin.
Here.
Counselor Madonza.
Here.
Counselor Mercier.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Counselor Nguyen.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you. Council Leahy is not here, but of course, the entire council would wish to extend to him best wishes for a quick recovery. Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Marie Kerwin, a lifelong resident of Lowell. She was the widow of James Kerwin, who died in 1996. She grew up in the Highlands section of the city and was educated in the Lowell schools, attending the Morey School and graduating from Lowell High School class of 1940, where she was a girl officer. Marie attended Lowell Commercial College. In 1954, she and her family moved to Belvedere. In fact, she and her family lived up the street from me. She was a parishioner of the Immaculate Conception Parish, where she was active for many years. She was a past president of the Keith Academy PTA, the Immaculate Conception School PTA, a member of the League of Catholic Women, and the former Oblate Mission Club. She is survived by 5 children: Marie Sweeney, the chairperson of GLAD, Greater Lowell Area Democrats, and a member of the State Democratic Committee; James Kerwin, William Kerwin, former member of the Lowell School Committee; Agnes Owens, and Patty Kerwin-Kelty, also a member of GLAD and a Democratic State Committee member, and a member of the Board of Trustees at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. 12 grandchildren, 9 great-grandchildren. We offer our sympathy to the family, relatives, and many friends. She will be truly missed. And I'd also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber to all those who have passed on since the last City Council meeting. We offer our sympathy to their families as well. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd all please rise and, excuse me, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I would also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Don McGuire, lifelong resident of the city of Lowell. Served his country with pride and distinction, and he was very involved with the veterans community and the veteran organization in Bedford. He leaves behind his wife, 2 children, 2 grandchildren, all the Williams, very involved in the community. He will be sorely missed. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd all please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers. First on the Mayor's business, we have a proclamation to present to Stacey Hargis of the Merrimack Valley Small Business Center, declaring Saturday, November 30th, Small Business Saturday. On behalf of the entire City Council, I wish to offer this proclamation. Whereas the government of Lowell, Massachusetts, believes that the small businesses are the backbone of our economy and the glue that holds communities together. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 28 million small businesses in the United States, representing more than 99% of American companies. and creating 2/3 of the net new jobs, and generating half of private gross domestic product. And whereas small businesses employ half of the private employees in the United States, and 93% of U.S. consumers believe that it is important to support the local small businesses that they value in their community, and 89% agree locally owned independent businesses contribute positively through taxes and jobs. And whereas Lowell, Massachusetts supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods, and advocacy groups in the public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I, Patrick O. Murphy, Mayor of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2013 as Small Business Saturday, and urge all residents in our community to support small businesses on November 30th and throughout the year, given this 26th day of November 2013.
Say a few words. First, I want to thank the Mayor's Office and the City Council for taking the time to recognize one of our city's most important assets, which are our small businesses, so thank you. I also want to say thank you to all the businesses in Lowell that contribute to making our city such an interesting and unique place to live and visit as well. This Saturday, November 30th, is a great time to recognize the important contributions that local businesses make. Community Teamworks Merrimack Valley Small Business Center is promoting a Shop Local campaign that is timed with this Small Business Saturday. This campaign was made possible through a marketing grant available from the city's Special Events and Cultural Affairs Office, so thank you to the city manager for this opportunity as well. The Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is Lowell campaign is about highlighting 50 participating businesses showcasing a variety of products. With the holiday shopping season here, now is the perfect time to make a conscious effort to think about what you can purchase locally rather than going out to a mall outside of town or a big box store. Why should we focus on our local businesses? Well, there's some easy reasons why. Less crowds, easy parking, but also because they offer great service, they offer unique products that can be very thoughtful gifts, and they have awesome deals. The Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is Lowell campaign is a great way to explore the wonderful stores that you may already know, and go visit some that you might not already know. You can learn more about the products you can buy and check out who's participating at our website, merrimackvalleysmallbusiness.com. And this Saturday, if you visit a participating location, you will be able to enter into a $100 raffle prize and also receive a free tote bag, which is very exciting. I actually brought one for each of the city councilors. For 15 years now, Community Teamworks Merrimack Valley Small Business Center has been providing support to a diverse group of entrepreneurs that are interested in creating and growing small businesses. And we provide technical assistance by empowering entrepreneurs with education and the tools they need so that they can make the right choices and increase their chances for success. We also provide financial support through small loans, which help people that cannot access traditional capital products. And what we do is help them establish and improve their credit and their understanding of traditional financial markets. Sometimes we even provide them with the money to start a business that they wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. Supporting small business is key to Lowell's economic prosperity, and it starts with each of us in this room and each of us in the city. So right now is a great time to start thinking about what can you do. Make a conscious effort to go out and support our local businesses. And that's exactly what this campaign is about, because when you shop small, you can certainly make a big investment in Lowell. Just to give you a few quick examples of who's participating in the Put Your Money Where Your Heart Is Lowell campaign, we have 10 clothing stores. We have 7 galleries that offer very unique artist gifts. They're all one of a kind. And we have stores that sell everything from bikes, comic books, toys, coffee and tea supplies, even gift certificates, of course, to one of our fabulous restaurants we have in town, or taking a crafting class at New Vestures. Just today, we were at a dog supply opening at Central in Jackson. So there's definitely a lot of possibility to put your money in Lowell and to meet your holiday shopping needs. So this Saturday, I hope that you not only participate in this campaign, but you take the time to really think about how you can continue to support our local businesses throughout the year, and always remember to put your money where your heart is. So thank you for letting me say a few words and for presenting this citation to us, and happy Thanksgiving, Lowell.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a proclamation in honor of World AIDS Day, December 1st, to offer on behalf of the entire City Council. Whereas, since 1981, the HIV/AIDS pandemic has taken the lives of more than 30 million people worldwide, including more than 620,000 people in the United States, and continues to ravage the world's developing nations with more than 23 million infected in the sub-Saharan Africa alone. And whereas today more than 1.1 million Americans are living with HIV/AIDS, 1 in 5 of who are aware they are infected, and while the face of and response to the disease has changed dramatically since World AIDS Day began in 1988, more awareness and resources are needed to prevent and combat the killer. And whereas the theme of this year's World AIDS Day, a program backed by the United Nations, is shared responsibility, strengthening results for an AIDS-free generation. Now therefore I, Patrick O. Murphy, Mayor of the City of Lowell, do hereby proclaim December 1st, 2013 as World AIDS Day, and urge all citizens to join in spreading this awareness. And to receive this proclamation is Mr. Troy Betancourt.
Thank you. On behalf of Lowell World AIDS Day Planning Committee, we thank you, Mr. Mayor, and City Council members for acknowledging and this proclamation. This year marks the 21st annual memorial event here in Lowell. It's been 30 plus years since the onset of the HIV/AIDS epidemic worldwide. There have been over 30,000 people living with HIV and AIDS in the state of Massachusetts, according to the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and 800 of those people living with HIV and AIDS here in Lowell. While this could be a solemn time of remembrance for those we've lost, it's also a time to celebrate the courage for those who are living with HIV and AIDS, as well as with all the advancements in treatment we have today. Many of us here today and those watching have been directly affected by this disease. I personally have been living with HIV for 20 years now. This very chamber was graced by the service of Grady Mulligan. Grady Mulligan was elected to City Council in 1993. Despite disclosing his own status at the time, he was re-elected and served through 1999. Thanks to then Councilor Grady Mulligan, his vision and perseverance, our arts district here in the city was established in 1998. Let us remember and honor his memory today, and thank you again for this opportunity to speak to you. We hope to see you Sunday, December 1st at 1 o'clock at Middlesex Community College. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt. Next, we have on the City Clerk's portion of the agenda, minutes of the City Council meeting of November 19th, Public Safety Subcommittee of November 19th for acceptance. So moved to approve by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. On the City Auditor's portion of the agenda, we have communication for fiscal year 2013 audits, including the management letter. Any discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is to send this to the Finance Subcommittee and next year, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But I had a question, Madam Auditor, on particularly this current year commitments or comments, excuse me. And this one is the first one. It's the I guess I'm concerned with the first item, which is centralization of Chapter 30B procurement practices. And the recommendation from the auditor is that all contracts should be reviewed and signed off by the chief procurement officer, and that's not currently being done. And the management response doesn't seem to, and they recommend that a policy put in place that that the chief procurement officer does sign off on all this, and I don't see in the response that this is going to take place. I guess two questions. Why is it that the chief procurement officer is not signing off on all of these procurements, and the law department is apparently signing off on some?
What the problem is, it's really not a problem with 30B. It's a problem with who is actually signing it first. The chief procurement officer does in fact review it all, and he approves the purchase order. And what we've done is we put a policy in place that everything will start with the chief procurement officer, whereas sometimes it wasn't. It was like the bigger contracts is the water department and the sewer department. The RFPs would come from the consultant and go that route first. Everything will now start with the procurement officer and move through the process.
So all the contracts are going to be reviewed and signed off?
Correct.
By the CPO, and that doesn't seem to be reflected in the management response.
Well, we've put the policy in place after this point in time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I think that was in the communication at some point, that there was in fact a change. Anyone else under communications from the city auditor? Councilor Laurie?
I'm sorry, just to follow up with Councilor Elliott, with the auditor, if I may. I'm looking at the number of accounts that were unresolved, which have been cleared up now, I guess, over the past 2 years. There was one, and I want to congratulate you on that. I know it's been a problem over the years. There was one, tax title takings. That was really never mentioned, and now I see it under plan in place resolved. Why would that be after all these years? Was that because it was a new program?
No, it wasn't actually, it's not actually the program. It was just cleaning up the old tax titles, which we've done, and now it's a resolved issue. It was in last year's management comments.
Okay, thank you. That was the only question I had. I just wanted to say, you know, I know it's been an issue for the 2 years I've been on the council, a number of counts that they've had problems with, and now we see them being resolved with just a few left. So I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further comments? There was a motion then by Councilor Elliott to refer this to the Finance Subcommittee. Do I have a second? So moved by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Motion to accept the report as report of progress. So moved by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. For the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have communication from city manager, responses to city council motions and requests. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have one in, and that was the Walter B. Smith, where the parking lot is now on Warren Street. And they built the parking lot, the lower locks, they built the hotel, and there was never really anything done for Mr. Smith. I guess you're going to put a placard now on the wall?
Correct.
We're working with the university?
Right, we'll be working with the university we've identified a spot, and we'll be having a ceremony to attach that plaque.
I had met with the chancellor a couple of months ago, actually a couple of weeks ago, before the last subcommittee meeting, and we had talked about it, and we're going to pick up the price of the placard. The only question I have, it's being named now, is there any chance we could have the family involved in that? His wife is still here, she lives in the city, and his daughter.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if we could just have them involved before we go
Yep.
and finish the plaque. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the communications? Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under the manager's portion of the agenda, Mr. Manager, I think everybody received one of these in the mail.
Yes.
And I received a call today from somebody wondering if there was going to be a smaller recycling bin for senior citizens.
Yes, there
And I
are.
believe that there is, but it's not really, it wasn't featured in this.
Okay.
But how is it gonna be determined who gets those?
What we're doing, and I believe when Mr. Wellenstein was in just a week or so, 2 weeks ago, he actually referenced this, that we were giving out the large ones to everyone, and then as people, the seniors that are eligible will be able to call and have theirs swapped out for a smaller one. That's the way that will work.
Okay.
Because some of the seniors may want the larger.
Right. Okay,
And
so
some may want the
everybody's going to
smaller.
have to make a call if they
That's
want the
correct.
smaller one. And the smaller one is, if I recall, is half the size, 48 gallons?
No, it's actually a little bit bigger. It's 65, I
64.
think.
Okay,
64, thank you.
okay. The only other, another call that I received during the week, and maybe in your discussions with Chancellor Meehan, you could speak about, several months ago, we leased spaces up at Sheehy Park, or up around Sheehy Park, to the university. And it's my understanding that the lighting up there is very poor.
Okay.
And I understand that it's ours and that they just lease it, but maybe they'd be willing to
We'll
do
talk to
something
them
with
about
the
that.
lighting. I think the inquiry that I received came from someone that was an employee of the university.
Okay, we'll check on that.
And that's actually not on the agenda, but if you want to make a motion about it next week, that's fine. Council Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few questions. I have a question for Mr. Bakey. He's here tonight. The communications medical marijuana license applications, and we did receive a letter. And I guess there's a handful of companies interested in coming to Lowell. From the letter we received.
Yeah, the letter that was in your packet was the letter, a copy of the letter that the city manager signed that went to the Department of Public Health in conjunction with last Thursday's second round deadline for the medical marijuana licensure applications. And one of the things that was required of applicants was to provide evidence of either local support or lack of local opposition, if such was forthcoming. We had about, I think probably about 16 different companies had approached us, various departments of the city, about being interested in this industry in Lowell. And ultimately we invited them to submit materials describing what they were actually proposing, the credentials of the folks behind it and so forth, as well as what benefits, if any, their particular proposal would have for the city. After evaluating what we received, we identified a handful of them that seemed to be stronger than the others against those criteria, and we identified them in that letter to the Department of Public Health and then provided each of them with a letter that basically said the same things as is in that letter that they could attach to their applications. It's my understanding that of the 6 that we identified, 5 of them actually seem to have submitted to the state. Apparently the 6th one, for whatever reason, we don't know, chose not to. And at this point, it's in the hands of the Department of Public Health to decide which of these, if any, they are interested in bestowing a license upon. After that, then there are still additional steps that are required, as we actually also identified in the letter, that anybody who is interested in operating a dispensary, as the council knows from our past conversations in Lowell, must obtain a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals under the other healthcare facility use category in the zoning code. And to date, as far as I know, no one has applied for said special permit for any address in the city. Presumably they're waiting to actually have a license from the DPH to have standing to make an application. That process would obviously include a butter notification and a public hearing and all of that, and a discussion of whether that particular address is a suitable location. We also would anticipate that anybody who is successful in obtaining a license would also, prior to obtaining a special permit, would also enter into an agreement with the city as essentially like a host community agreement to codify whatever benefits and whatever mitigation for any impacts they would have would also get addressed in that. So as of right now, the letter was included so the council was aware of what has happened. But at this point, the ball is very squarely in the court of the Department of Public Health, and they may elect to award a license to one or more companies in Lowell. They may elect to not award any licenses to anybody in Lowell. We are sort of waiting to see how they will view the applications.
I want to thank Mr. Baker for that presentation. I had seen the letter, but it's been somewhat of a hotbed item in some communities, and I thought an explanation by Mr. Baker for the people watching here tonight, bringing them up to date on what's going on here in the city would be good, so I want to thank him for that. Thank you.
Councilman Mendonça.
Just to get an idea of how soon it might occur, do we know when through the mayor to Mr. Baker, do we know when the state will issue those? And then I assume it would take 30 to 60 days minimum through a city process beyond that. So I'm just trying to get a feel for how long it would be before anybody could establish one.
Well, I believe the state's timeline has them making their decisions during the winter of 2014 coming up. Then the process for applying for a special permit generally requires a minimum of about 45 days, and depending on whether the zoning board continues the matter into subsequent hearings, it could take as much as 90 days or so to resolve. And so obviously we'd be on somewhat of that timeline. There may be other factors that would influence a company's ability to open on a particular date. Presumably there would be some kind of a build out of a facility and so forth that would also take some time, even if they secured all the necessary permits and licenses.
So even if they had the best timing, in their opinion, probably wouldn't be till the summer at the earliest. Probably could be later.
It seems like it would probably be somewhere in around there. I don't know. I do understand that the Department of Public Health has reacted to the ballot measure by expressing, at least verbally expressing an interest in getting a well-regulated medical marijuana industry up and running as soon as possible, because apparently there is a fairly broad interest in this industry in the state among the voters. But they have been, I think, being very appropriately deliberate in their process of making sure that it is indeed a well-regulated industry by respectable companies, which I must admit from the research I've done is not the case in every state that has this industry. So hopefully, as a result, they're both simultaneously trying to deliver what the people appear to want, but also making sure they do it cautiously and safely.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Noon.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Becky also. Out of this interest, individual company, did they identify location already prior to the application to the Department of Public Health?
It varies. Many of them have identified one or more locations that they're looking at. Some of them have been more specific than others in terms of where they are looking at. Some of them have gone as far as having executed letters of intent with landlords, but some of them have also presented multiple addresses as possible locations. I think really it will be the special permit process where someone will actually get more definitive about a particular location, and that's when there will be a discussion about a particular address as opposed to a municipality as a desired destination for this.
Would it be possible for the council to get a copy of those locations that been identified by the developers or the company?
We can look at providing something. Again, they haven't all been consistent, and some of them have not been definitive about a location. So, I mean, we can try to put something together based on the information that we have, but it's not. It's not going to be. We don't have enough information to be able to say, Company A is interested in exactly this address, and Company B exactly that address. But we can try to put some information.
At least we'll have a rough idea as to where they identify their base, their location to be. So just get a head start before they come in for a permit.
Yep.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. On the election note, Mr. Mayor, I noticed that the intent is to combine the two positions together. That is, the office manager has been vacated for some time with the with the municipal hearing officers. Going forward, is it the understanding that the job's going to be offered to the acting director of election at this time, or will there be a position open and invite other to apply through you, Mayor, to, I believe the city solicitor is the director of this department, in charge of this department. If you care to comment
I
on
think
that.
given the personnel nature of that, we need to decline to comment at this time.
Okay.
And kind of work through some of those issues.
All right, so you'll be able to somehow complete this process by, as you indicated, January 2014?
Correct.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I understand, thanks.
Any further discussion on the communications? If the vice chair will take the floor.
Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were two communications that I wanted to talk about tonight. The first was about the naming of a bus shelter in honor of my grandfather, George B. Murphy, which was something that my brother had wanted me to bring up. We're not so concerned about getting something named after my grandfather. Our family knows what he's done, and we can take pride in that ourselves. The issue with the response that was made about that is that there won't be any, apparently, bus shelter there in front of the senior center, which is something that he had sought over 60 years ago, and something that belongs there because of the high level of traffic of people that use that. You always see people gathered out there and the bench that's there. People using both the senior center and the pharmacy, but also the demoulas across the street. And a lot of effort was really made into designing a crossing for pedestrians from that demoulas to the senior center area. So I think, you know, maybe a little more effort, I think, could be put into the design of a very simple bus shelter that is constructed there. And I understand there's right of way and that there's issues with the width of the sidewalk there. But it could be something as simple as you put two posts there and you cantilever the roof over the shelter. And maybe that doesn't block all the wind that takes place there, but it might block the snow and the rain. So I would refer this back to the department to put a little more effort into trying to accommodate the high volume of people that are there and that use it as a way to get back and forth, particularly to the grocery store.
Motion by Mayor Murphy to refer back to the manager, seconded by Council Laurie. Mr. Manager?
I know, I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, that we'd be happy to take another look at it and see if there's another area in that location that we could work with. Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Council Laurie?
If I could, and I don't know how the mayor feels about this, but if it's not possible, if one could be named in Ward 10, the mayor's grandfather, I grew up in Ward 10, he represented that area as a city councilor, and if it's really impossible to be done on Broadway Street, if there was one in Ward 10, and I believe there's still Murphys living in the old neighborhood, my old neighborhood, if it's okay with the mayor, if it was an alternative.
Mayor Murphy?
I really think he wouldn't have cared either, and that he would prefer to see that there actually be something done here at this site for the people, and it doesn't matter whether or not his name's on it, but that there be a structure there to protect people from the elements. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to refer to the manager signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Any other discussion, any other items? Mayor Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second item that I wanted to discuss is the motion that had been made about the both the Lowell connector and the VFW highway in parts. There was some talk of a plan that was in conjunction with the Ayers City urban renewal area. And in that response, four benefits were identified to this kind of project. The first is restoring the urban fabric and neighborhood connections, which was disrupted initially back in the late 1950s and early 1960s. You had the Lowell connector tear apart neighborhoods within the city. The second is significantly improving safety on the roadways, because there are a number of crashes that have been reported to the state that happened there because it is a highway that's designed very much unsafely. The third is creating a more welcoming and attractive gateway to the city, and the fourth is increasing values to nearby property. But the proposal that's included here suggests that the grades not be changed. And there also is a suggestion that it becomes some kind of a parkway instead. So if I could ask through you, Mr. Chair, to either the manager or the planning director, Mr. Bakey, what is the plan envisioned in coordination with that Air City urban renewal?
Mr. Bakey.
Yes, thank you. The Air City Urban Renewal Plan, which we are putting sort of the final touches on the final draft of the plan so that we can submit that to the City Council, hopefully in the coming weeks, does discuss this idea of transforming what's currently a highway of the Lowell Connector between Plain Street and the terminus of the Lowell Connector today into more of an urban boulevard that would have 2 travel lanes in each direction, be reintroducing trees to complement the better lighting that's actually been introduced, a slower design speed, and the ability to make better connections with the street network around it, particularly at its terminus, rather than having a highway abruptly end literally in someone's front yard, as is the case today. By slowing the design speed in that area, I don't think there would be significant delays for anyone, at least according to what the traffic engineers who've looked at this with us don't feel there would be significant delays, but there would be very significant improvements in public safety conditions along that stretch of the road, which many will recall has been the site of a number of very serious accidents and a lot of attempts to improve the safety. And I think ultimately they all stem from the fact that it's designed for a speed that that section of roadway really has trouble carrying. By doing that, you also would create some additional right-of-way, which would allow the opportunity to think about I think another of the projects that the mayor has proposed, which is a greenway or recreational trail along the River Meadow Brook. There would be sufficient right-of-way to introduce that as part of the project as well. This would basically, again, have a variety of benefits ranging from improving the gateway experience to improved safety to frankly, improved mobility options for the city. However, at this stage, it has really only been looked at very conceptually, and there really needs to be a more our sort of first recommendation is that there really needs to be a more thorough feasibility study to really pinpoint what is technically possible and what are some of the potential challenges. One of the challenges that was identified in the initial review that was done by our consultants in conjunction with the Air City Urban Renewal Plan is that whatever you consider the design speed and the profile of the roadway, it has to be elevated to cross over the railroad tracks as it does today. And in order to achieve the elevation that you need to achieve there, as well as the elevation that you need to achieve at Plain Street, there is really very little opportunity to alter the existing grades of the roadway in between without creating some very significant up and down hills that would be really problematic even for a boulevard design. That said, I think that there still remains the interest in improving as many connections into the area as possible. One of the reasons this is in the Air City Urban Renewal Plan is that improving access to the Tanner Street area, which is the Air City area, is a key to realizing the economic potential of that area. And part of this also, we'd be looking for opportunities to improve that access. So that would be another piece of such a project if it were to move forward.
Mayor Murphy?
Thank you. In looking at the benefits of this kind of project, I see what's proposed here, the anticipated cost of $8 to $10 million is not meeting most of them. It is only meeting really the improved safety because of the design changes that are made, and only then partially. Without a plan to reconnect the street grid between the neighborhoods that were initially separated and cut off from each other, I don't think that you dramatically improve the safety, because you're not getting enough cars off, or as many cars as you possibly could, off that main road. I think you also fail to restore, of course, the neighborhood connections if you don't have an at-grade connector. But you also fail to really make full advantage out of, by having an at-grade boulevard. You don't activate those spaces on either side. One of the things that wasn't mentioned in the report as a benefit is, of course, the environmental benefits from having an at-grade boulevard, where the east bank of the Hales Brook would then be able to become some kind of linear park, or that would be able to handle more stormwater. But also you're not reconnecting the neighborhoods. And so you don't have those addresses along that boulevard that are activated and become more economically viable places. There's all kinds of stretches. There's the former RMV site that is currently vacant, fairly well vacant, that could then become, if it's reoriented to a new boulevard, would become a substantial commercial area. And I think what also needs to be looked at is not just Plain Street down to the end of the connector, but further down, further towards the 495 connections. There's an issue of environmental justice. We have Lowell Housing Authority properties all along the connector. Councilor Newman and I earlier filed a motion to look at the city land that's adjacent to that Lowell Housing Authority property to really renovate that space as a green space for the people living there. And they wouldn't get that benefit. They wouldn't have that benefit of being on a good street if it were not to be lowered to at grade. So there are a number of things that I think are not addressed by this kind of proposal, that although it may be a fraction of the cost that Milwaukee spent on lowering its freeway, the returns, I think, to that kind of a project are going to be far lower here if we accept this kind of a plan that doesn't reconnect the different neighborhoods, doesn't activate those commercial spaces along the connector, and doesn't really take into account the full potential of it to redistribute traffic throughout the city. So I think that I guess I would then make a motion to refer it again back to the planning department to look at it again, and possibly look into the engineering feasibility study, but also to get a look from an engineering company that does these kinds of projects. Because there are engineering firms out there, civil engineering firms, that have a different view of what these kinds of boulevards or freeways can be. And so it's important to have a civil engineering firm that is going to look at it in terms of the road that comes through our city on the city's terms, and is not designed for cars simply to move through our city and move out and export all that value to the suburbs around us. So I think it's worth another look by the administration. Thank you.
Motion by Mayor Murphy to refer this item back to the administration and planning department. Second by Councilor Noon. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Any other questions, discussion? Motion to accept and manager's communication placed on file by Mayor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Donza. Seeing that there are a number of people here from Youth Build, I'd ask for a suspension of the rules by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Noon, to take up her motion,
Number 15.
item 15. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Motion by Councilor Mercia, request the city manager find a ways and means of setting up a meeting between city unions and Youth Build for the purpose of allowing our youth an opportunity to provide services to the city in many areas that would free up city employees to perform other duties. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are many reasons for this motion. I'll give you some of them. We tend to always hear about the bad kids, the kids on drugs, the youth that are involved with gangs, the kids who drop out of school. And then we hear that there's no place for the youth to go. We hear that the youth have too much time on their hands, and that's why they get into trouble. We hear that the kids today don't care about this city, that something should be done. Well, this motion is asking for each of us on this council, along with the administration, to help, to allow something to be done. The kid you see behind me and behind us could have possibly fit the description: dropout, gang member, throwaway kid. And then one day they realized that they were worth something and that they needed help, and that with the grace of God, we have in our city two great organizations like UTech and Youth Build to pull them out of danger and make something of them. We have here this evening members of Youth Build, and I couldn't be more prouder of these individuals that turned their lives around. I come before you with this motion in hope of finding a way to allow them to give back to this great city by providing services in any area that seems possible, so that our own city employees can be freed up enough to tend to other duties. This can be possible, but I don't want to tread on unions' feet. What I need is to sit down with the unions, the city manager, and ask where these members of Youth Build can help with people without people feeling like their jobs are in jeopardy, because it's not in jeopardy. We hear about bad kids. These kids could have been worse, but with the right mix of structure, direction, and love, these kids are the best. Let them prove what I already knew. I know that they have been a number of times right alongside of me serving the food at the senior center dinner dances. Some of my colleagues here know that. These are the very kids that did that. Councilor Laurie was there. Councilor Elliott was there as well. Many of us were there, and these are the kids that were right along dancing with our seniors, and they served very well, and they did a great job. They have picked up trash and needles in the North Common Amphitheater. They rehabilitated 2 homes in Drake. In the past, they rehabbed a home on Suffolk Street in Lowell. They have taken a dump, and they had turned it around into a vibrant tax-providing structure so that we got it back on the tax roll, and people had a place to live. They did that. They have gone to homes to help disabled veterans. They have helped Mill City Grows and even taken a rundown vacant piece of property and transformed it into a vibrant community garden on Whiting Street in Lowell off of Salem Street. Many of us were there as well. These are the throwaway kids that made a comeback, who are now certified with OSHA 10, and they have the basic NCCER, that's the National Center for Construction, Education, and Research approval skills. Look at them as members of an apprenticeship program, not just tool workshops workers, but pre-trained union workers with the proper certification who do more than just framing. They are skilled laborers to start, and they are willing to help the city and give back to society. 98% of these kids behind us, of these youth build kids, are from Lowell. This is a perfect supply and demand situation. Youth Build can supply the city's demand in a mutually beneficial way. This is a partnership that can work. Give these kids a reason to feel self-worth. Make them feel like they belong, because they do. This city is in need of repair in many ways and in many places, and these kids are able and willing to help. Let us start up a mentoring program so that one day these kids can use this experience on their resumes. Let these kids be proud and grateful that the city took a chance with them. Let me prove to the residents out there that Lowell is not all about bad kids, gang member kids, but good, decent kids that want to serve the city in a positive way. I'm happy to bring this motion forward. Every single one of us had gone to candidates night all over the city, and we promised that we'd help. Promising to help is nothing. We have to put our words where the action is. We have to do something. These are the kids that could have been dead. They could have been on drugs. These are the good kids. You open the paper, you hear drugs, gangs, shootings. These kids could have went that route, but they didn't. And so we have two group leaders here. The director of Youth Build, Chula, is here. And we have Joe. He's the maintenance construction supervisor. I don't know if I could suspend the rules, and they'd like to say some few words. I don't know, but I want you to know these kids are our future. They're vibrant. They could have fell by the wayside. These kids believe in themselves, and I want them to know that this city believes in them too. So what I'd like to do is suspend the rules as well to maybe someone.
Motion by Councilman Mercia, second by Councilman Donso. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Youth Build. At Youth Build, we are a vocational training program and a GD program. We service young men and women from the ages of 16 to 24. And like City Council member Rita Mercier informed, 98% of those young people reside here in the city of Lowell, the majority of them being from the Acre. What's so important about Youth Build is really the foundation and the core is in community service. Our kids, in order to even graduate from the program, have to do a minimum of 300 community service hours. That's just a minimum. We have AmeriCorps. The majority of our students all graduate with 675 hours of community service. Our young people come to our program and they're committed to their community, committed to giving back in a positive manner. And these are kids that, you know, some of them have been adjudicated in the criminal justice system, and they're coming to us saying, I want to make amends in my community. I want to pick up needles. I want to do better. I want to go on a job site and reconstruct a home that's someone like me, a home that's going to stay in affordable housing. At the core of Youth Build, not only do we do community service and GED, what's really important, I have here our construction manager. I have 2 licensed construction staff that work with these students and hands-on to attain industry-recognized certifications, the OSHA 10, the NCCER. They're working, they're learning employability skills. We have career coaching, interview skills. At this, at Youth Build, they are taught all the foundations that they essentially need to go into entry-level work. They're already prepped and ready to go. So, I don't know if Joe wants. I'm going to have the construction manager, Joe Braga, say something.
Thank you very much for affording us the opportunity to speak. I remember meeting the mayor for the first time actually at Whiting Street, which is now Levasseur Park. I remember the first day I walked on that property. I was there I had just started with Youth Build, and I can tell you the number of needles because I'll never forget it. Myself and 5 students picked up 65 needles out of that little park area. That was my first time walking on that property. The students that, as they're in the construction trade, as Tula has said, they get their OSHA 10. That's where they start. And then they move into the core curriculum, which teaches them safety all the way up through construction drawings. They go to hand tools, power tools. They're certified in materials handling. The hands-on skill set, I don't know if most of you saw in the Lowell Sun recently, we were just recognized for ribbon cutting at 32 Dana Court in Drake. That was a house that we completely rehabbed with these students, and we have about 35 altogether. Complete remodel. These students learned sheetrock, frame, building brand new decks, kitchens, cabinet installs. It's not all just basic carpentry. Myself and my trainer, we've been in the business together. We have about 60 years experience. We train these kids in advanced carpentry also. So when they leave Youth Build upon graduation, they have the skill set necessary to actually be classified as a carpenter's helper, as you could put it. Not a full-blown carpenter yet, but to have the skill set for a carpenter's helper. I feel that it would be very beneficial in any department within the city with their hand-eye coordination, with the skill set they have, their dexterity. I really feel they could be a benefit in any department and be a great asset. These kids want to work. If you see the pride they take in what they've done and what they've accomplished, I don't just call these my students, these are my kids. I'm invested in them. And they take a lot of pride in everything that they do, from the parks to the sheds that we built for Mill City Grows. These kids are your Lowell kids. And they're trying to beautify, they're looking for parks. They want to beautify these parks. They want to clean them because it's their city. And this group, from Youth Build, and the students that are coming along, they're vested in this city of Lowell. I really hope and urge the council that would hear the words that, and thank you, Councilor Mercier, for that. We really want to advocate for these kids. They could have been in trouble. They've turned it around. They want to support you. They want to help this city, and that comes from their hearts. I speak from their hearts, from being with them on a daily basis. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I am on the CTI board before the vote. Even though there's really no money or anything like that, I just want to make it public that I'm a member of the board of directors. Thank you.
Councilor Mercier?
Well, I'm on the board of directors too, but we have a commitment to the youth of our city, and this is the great way to do it. There's a lot of things that could be done in the city. You really don't see much when you drive by. You go pretty fast, but when you're walking on the beat and you're walking in the neighborhood, you see a lot of things that can be done that you wouldn't see driving by quickly. These are the kids that want to help. They want to restore our city to the beauty that it could be and should be. And so I just want a cooperation. Instead of going out there raising fees and fines and everything else, we can make this a beautiful city without hiring extra people and have people that want to contribute to do something. They're willing to work and help. So that's the gist of the motion. And I want to commend each and every one of you. You turned your life around. I'm extremely proud, and I want to give you a round of applause. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a good motion, Council Mercia. As she mentioned, when we go to these youth forums during the election period, we think it's important and we all attend because those kids are the future of this community. I think it's a good motion because, as Councilor Mercia stated, there are so many things that we could use help with that when there's a problem, whether in the schools, the parks, in the city, it becomes a funding issue. Yes, we'd like to get to it, but it's resources, resources, resources. I think this is a win-win. I think we have young individuals, young people of the community that want to give back. We all know we have a huge need of doing things in this community, and I hope this works. I hope that, I hope it's a seamless a transition from using this organization to address the need that we have in this city, infrastructure, whatever it is, not just cleaning up things. We have talented individuals that we can benefit from. So I don't know if there needs to be a negotiation or an agreement or a memorandum of understanding, but this seems to me like it's a no-brainer that, it'll free up our employees to do other things. On the other hand, listening to the certifications and the test and all of the requirements that these youngsters have to go through, I'm very impressed, and I think it's a great idea that you brought this forward, and I look forward to see an implementation of this to benefit all of us. So, thank you,
Mr. Manager.
If I could, I think it's a wonderful idea, and it's an idea actually that we've looked at before with not necessarily with Youth Build, although I think there were some things with Youth Build in the past, but some of the other organizations in the city, youth organizations in the city, and it is a union issue. It does require some negotiations and all, and we've not been successful in that in the past, and but certainly interested in continuing to investigate that as well as other similar initiatives with our youth in the city. So we'll certainly follow through on this.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Moving back to the manager's portion of the agenda, we have a communication. The city manager requests approval of out-of-state travel, one for wastewater. Move to approve by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Mendoza. Roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy. Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
That's 8 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a communication from the city assessor. Requests the city council set a public hearing for December 10th, 2013 for the purpose of voting on the minimum residential factor for fiscal year 2014. Entertain a motion to refer to a public hearing on December 10th, 2013 at 7 p.m. So moved by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Noon. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have an order for a 60-day trial related to new parking restrictions installed as part of the University Avenue Bridge project. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. In City Council order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266, thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Wish of the council. Move to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Roll call, please.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy. Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
That's 8 yeas.
Next, we have an order for a 60-day trial, Agawam Street, for handicap parking. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Mendoza. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. In City Council order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266, thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Motion to approve by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Mercia.
No, I'm not approving it.
Not approving, okay.
I have a
Seconded by
question.
Seconded by Councilor Martin. On the motion, Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Didn't we have a group of people here last Tuesday? Is this the same order for the 60-day trial for the traffic pattern on Fletcher and Pawtucket Street?
No.
This is Agawam Street.
Oh, we're on Agawam Street?
Yep.
All right, sorry.
Any further discussion on Agawam Street? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Leahy. Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Medonsa.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Newman.
Yes.
8 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a vote to authorize the manager to execute pass card parking agreement with Counting House Lofts, the early garage. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Martin, seconded by Council Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council vote, authorizing city manager to execute a pass card parking agreement with Counting House Lofts Limited Partnership at the Edward J. Early Parking Garage in the city of Lowell for parking for residential use located at 135 Middlesex Street, Lowell. Move to approve by Council Kennedy,
I have a question.
Move to approve by Council Martin, seconded by Council Mercia. On the motion, Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. What is the situation there now? Where do those people park now?
The development hasn't been built yet.
Okay. Okay, these are for the new units?
Correct.
They're still not done?
No, no, they haven't. This just got funded by the final level of funding from the state, just within the last 6 months.
Do you know when the project should be completed?
I think about 18 months, thereabouts.
Okay.
This is key to the financing being lined up.
Yep, okay.
Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I had a question, and not that I oppose the idea in general, but, I'd like to see a report, how many spaces we have at the early, what this will lock up on a daily basis, and what the plans are for the next 5 or 10 years. Do you really have to look at building another garage down there as Jackson Street expands? That's really, you're looking at a courthouse down the line, the state delegation. We have the Trinity expanding down there once we get moving. And between the hospital, the housing, the condos, I just wonder how many spaces we have in that garage, how many are going to be locked up through leases such as these, which I don't oppose. My question is, long-term, are we looking at another garage?
Well, long-term, we are looking at another garage. The Hamilton Canal project does envision another 900-space garage just to the side of the visitor parking lot area, near where the commercial buildings will be built. But this one, this is much of the way we have to look at it is much of the residential parking is parking that uses the facility at night, whereas the commercial uses occur during the day. So right now we have plenty of spaces in there.
Oh, yeah, I didn't oppose it.
Yep.
As I said, I'm looking down the
But
line.
we definitely need the city will be looking at a new garage somewhere in the next, 5 to 10 years.
That's what I was looking, 5 to 7 years. Thank you.
Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager once again. Is that garage almost full?
No,
Okay, is it close to being full?
no.
Then why are we anticipating we're going to need another garage?
When you have the full build-out of the Hamilton Canal project, we're not saying right now we're proposing a new garage, but on the plan for the Hamilton Canal area, it does envision another 400 to 500,000 square feet of commercial space, another 400 housing units, so as well as the courthouse and the property that the community health center is in also has additional space that's going to be developed in the near future. So there's quite a bit of developable land, but we're not coming forward and saying we need it today. We need it 5 to 10. We're anticipating that there will be a need 5 to 10 years from now.
And you anticipate, let's assume that we're both here 5 or 10 years from now. Are you assuming that it would be built, would be a municipal garage?
That's
building?
unclear at this point in time. It's unclear at this time how exactly we would fund that.
I guess I would be very interested in Council Laurie's report because of this. It's one thing to build a municipal garage when it's for people, but if we're building, when it's for people that choose to use a garage and have business downtown. But to build a garage just to provide an amenity for developers, a parking amenity for developers, and to use taxpayer money to do that it just doesn't seem proper to me, or at least it's something that we should think about very carefully before we do that. The garages are expensive. It's a lot of money, and for people to expect people to pay for a garage, I mean, the early garage, what did that cost, 21 million?
21 million.
Yeah. And so let's assume that this would be quite a bit more than that, just because of the time. And to expect that people would finance that, only to have those spaces then gobbled up by residents who are moving in, then all that garage is doing is benefiting developers more than the taxpayer. And I just think that's a policy question that we need to come up with a good answer for.
Mr. Manager.
Well, I think, Councilor, it is something that needs to be discussed down the road. It's nothing that we need to debate here tonight. But I do think that the idea behind, really, when you look at what's happened in downtown Lowell and successes that we've had with all of the development that's taken place, with the mill renovations, with the commercial developments that we've seen, what's made that all possible is the parking garages. And absent those parking garages, you would have empty mill buildings that would never be filled, and the taxes that they pay that contribute to the tax base, the shopping that they do, the investments that they make would never be realized by the city. So I think it's been, and this goes back obviously a couple decades now, the decision to build these parking garages. Now, we're very fortunate because the first set of parking garages that were built here were paid by by taxpayers, not necessarily taxpayers of Lowell. They were paid by state taxpayers. And but what's happened as a result of that is that the revenue that's been gained from those parking garages has allowed us then to move forward with the early garage and build that, not put that burden on the taxpayer. That burden has been paid for by the users of our garage, our parking system. And that's allowed that entire area, the Appleton Mill, the Lowell Community Health Center, the Counting House Lofts, Loft 27, all to be able to have a parking so that they can make their investments work. And again, it's paid for by the users. It's not paid by the taxpayers. And so that same model would be utilized, I envision being utilized in the future with a future garage, with the next garage that's part of the Hamilton Canal site. But again, it's 5 to 10 years down the road, and who knows whether any of us will be here at that time.
The funding for the early garage came from where? From the city, right?
The city bonded that, and the debt service is paid by the parking enterprise, which is funded by the users of the Parker system.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Leahy. Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Medonza.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia. Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Noon.
Yes.
8 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a general petition, miscellaneous petition for Bonnie Jean Fortes. Request one handicap parking sign at 55 Parker Street. Entertain a motion to refer to the traffic engineer. So moved by Councilor Noon, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have a miscellaneous petition by Attorney James W. Flood Jr. for Lowell Mammoth Development LLC. Request the City of Lowell accept New Edward Street and surrounding sidewalk constructed at property developed at corner of Middlesex and Wood Street for the Walgreens project. Entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department to draft a proper vote. So moved by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have a motion by Councilor Mercier. Request the city manager Contact proper person from National Grid to address the city council regarding double poles and hanging wire issues together with plans to remove the worst cases in a timely fashion. I would also ask that we take up Councilor Leahy's motion with that, which also requests the city manager to invite the proper executives from National Grid and Verizon to come before the council to address the concerns of the city council.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. Councilor Mercia.
Quite some time ago, we had many problems with the double pole issue, and at that time, we asked representatives of National Grid to come before us, the city council, and lay out a plan as to what they would propose to start the ball moving to take issue with the double poles. And we did make some progress at that time, but lately it seems to have taken a turn for the worst. The problems and the concerns from the residents seem to have come to a halt, and to me, that's not right. National Grid comes before us very often, and we always respond quickly and oblige their requests, but the partnership seems one-sided to me. I want someone who has the authority to make decisions come before this council and lay out a precise plan as to how and when they will address our most serious problems. And that is 40 Stormquist Avenue, a pole that was hit by a drunk driver 2 years ago that has its wires repeatedly fallen, leaving people in the dark time and time again. That is unacceptable. Windsor Street, slanting at a 12-degree angle and frightening the surrounding neighbors, unacceptable. Andover Street, where the pole split almost in half, only to be joined by another pole anchored to it, with the 7-foot orange unsightly flag with a long piece of wire hanging near it, and it has fallen across the sidewalk, forcing passerbys to go around by stepping into the street. Unacceptable and very insensitive to your customers who pay your salary, National Grid. And I want answers, I want solutions, and I want National Grid to be accountable to their customers. Not only National Grid, because you hear that perhaps they're doing things in a timely fashion, but you got the cable wires aren't being removed in a timely fashion. You got Verizon wires aren't being removed. So perhaps we could amend this motion and say not only National Grid, but the representatives from Verizon and Comcast as well. This is very unsatisfactory. This is unacceptable, and we're getting a little bit sick of it. And when you go down Andover Street and see the wire across the street with an orange flag, and people are walking around it in the street, that's not right. And that's just one section of the city. That's just one pole. I imagine if people were to call, you'd have the same situation in Pawtucketville, in Centerville, in the Highlands, everywhere. And there's a lot of dangerous poles, and I think they should be addressed. I don't know what the plan is, and I want something done about it. Thank you.
Councilor Mercy, I appreciate your passion. Representatives, of course, from National Grid and Verizon aren't here yet, but so we might save that for when they do come. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, just along those lines, I believe we communicated with the council a couple of weeks ago that both the utility companies are scheduled to be here on the 3rd, so they'll be here
good.
next week for you.
Maybe I can save this speech for them when they come here and say it right to them.
Right,
I'd be honored to do that.
Yeah, this was set up a few weeks ago, so they'll be here for you to.
Okay, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Councilor Mendonça.
There was some legislation regarding enforcement of this, if they stayed too long. If I could, through the mayor, ask the administration to get us an update on the status of that.
Right, that has not gone through.
I know, unfortunately, but if we get an update on where it stands.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Leahy, who is not here tonight, but requests action on the motion. Request city manager have proper department update the council regarding the projected completion of the project at the intersection of Baldwin Street and Princeton Boulevard, seconded by Councilor Noon. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. Request the city manager and Police Superintendent provide a report regarding the status of neighborhood police precincts. Seconded by Council Kennedy. Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought we had a very productive Public Safety Subcommittee meeting last week with now Superintendent Taylor. And I was pleased to hear that he wants to return to the days of having a very strong focus on community policing. Because community policing is about partnerships, by forming alliances with all the diverse groups we have in the community to bring distinct resources to bear on diverse problems which are distinct by neighborhood. I was also happy to hear that he would like to add officers and get officers out into the neighborhoods on foot and on bike. And one of the things that came up in the discussion at the subcommittee was the status of neighborhood precincts. The superintendent talked both then and yesterday at a swearing in about the importance of police precincts to help connect the police with the community and the different neighborhoods. I came upon a report produced by the Department of Justice back in 2009, and it's a very interesting report. I can't say that I went through the entire 240 pages. However, it highlights the successes and the challenges, and it produced, first, it's a report that goes through 12 communities, Mr. Manager, that implemented community policing in the late 90s, mid to late 90s and early 2000s. Lowell happens to be one of the communities that is cited and discussed, and it comes up with a number of conclusions and a number of positive results from community policing. So I hope the superintendent has it or his staff has it, because it goes through 12 communities, and again, it summarizes what works in some communities, what works in some neighborhoods, and what doesn't work in some neighborhoods. But what a central theme is police precincts, the presence, the effectiveness of these precincts, the opportunities for community meetings to collaborate with community leaders and the such. So I do think that they are needed as part of reinvigorating the community police operation. It seems like in recent years that we don't have as many precincts as we used to, or that are operating now. So I filed this motion to find exactly how many precincts there were 5 years ago and what happened to them since then. If we lost some, it would be good to know why we did. Secondly, I think we need to make sure there are precincts in all of our different neighborhoods and that they're being operated to help address the crime issues that we face. In fact, we had discussion about the volunteer academy that just graduated, and I got a call from one of the volunteers, as I mentioned, and he is eager, after he saw the discussion, to get involved. So there is interest in volunteerism and bringing that volunteerism back. So I'd like to amend my motion to say request the manager report on the status of these neighborhood police precincts and develop a plan to add precincts. I think that more precincts would send a message that we are serious about returning to community policing precincts. One item of note, Mr. Manager, and I'd be happy to send you the link to this report. It was produced in 2009, and what is interesting is that there's a section that cites the future of community policing in Lowell, and it comes up with three conclusions. And one of them, the first fear, is that Lowell neighborhood groups are as vital to the long-term stability. And this report says we are concerned whether we can maintain their interest and involvement. Secondly, the second concern was that the department is vulnerable to potential backlash from other city agencies, and the references to staffing. And the concern was that when federal grants was lost, that there would be some resist to hiring more officers. So I guess that is something that was cited in this report. It clearly is a concern and something that we have to get back to. When the community policing was put into effect, Lowell almost doubled its police force from 140 to close to 260. And if you look through all of these 12 communities, increasing the officers is a key component of community policing for a number of reasons. One being you have officers focused in neighborhoods, focused on problem solving, identify where the issues are and letting them do their job in that aspect, and not having to do the regular patrol. So it's a hybrid of perhaps the smart policing approach now, but it definitely references the need for more officers, precincts, and the relationships and the partnerships that those build with the community leaders. So I'll look forward to the report, but I was encouraged to hear the police superintendent yesterday speak of the importance of community policing in addressing the issues happening in our neighborhoods and throughout the city. So, thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the council. I agree with you regarding every number of points that you've made. The support and the understanding of community policing was a key factor in my choice of Superintendent Taylor to the position, and with regards to the federal funding, it has been a challenge, but in fact, we've increased the locally funded share. While we're down some, this year alone, we assumed the cost of 17 offices that were being funded by the federal government that we took on ourselves. But it has been a challenge with the other objectives of the council and the administration to hold the line on taxes and so on. But we are committed to doing that. Superintendent Taylor and I have already started talking about some different strategies with regards to that. Staffing issues. On the police precincts, we still have 9 police precincts that we utilize here in the city. And the issue has been one of staffing for those, not necessarily by police, but by volunteers and other people. We are looking to have volunteers. We're working closely with the university and hopeful the number of areas of partnership with the university. The superintendent and the UMass Lowell police chief met earlier today, and in fact, and discussed a number of different initiatives that we'll be rolling out in the next few days. But one of them is the utilization of UMass Lowell interns, criminal justice interns, that we've talked about, and there's some support at the university for this as well, of using them to help staff some of these sites. So it's something I think it's important, and I'm happy to work with the superintendent getting that report. Council, if you could send me the link, that would be great. I'd appreciate that. I don't think I've seen that particular report.
Happy to do it.
Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. Request the city manager provide an update on efforts to fill the Freudenberg building. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. For the last several weeks, the last several months, has been a great emphasis on economic development in the city to stabilize taxes, bring more jobs, more businesses in. And I know this. I know one of the next big pieces in the Hamilton Canal District is filling the former Freudenberg building with commercial tenants. I see the building is refurbished. It looks great, but we haven't heard of any news of tenants moving in, which creates more of a domino effect in that particular area. So I'm hoping, Mr. Manager, we can provide the council with an update on the efforts to fill that building to help the Hamilton Canal project move forward.
Mr. Manager.
Just to the council's question or request, there have been a number of leads that have been looked at that we've been working with the developer to bring in some positive signs on the horizon of another couple of leads that we're tracking down in support. Ultimately, it's up to the developer to make this work, but we're anxious to get that because we want to move on to the next, and the next phases of the Hamilton Canal are moving forward as well. So if I might suggest to the councilor that perhaps in January, I think it's been a while since we've made a report to the council There hasn't been a lot happening other than the Appleton and the Freudenberg, but there's some things about to happen out there with some other projects that we see. Perhaps an update to the council in January on the Hamilton Canal District and the whole jam area, actually.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Laurie, request the City Council vote to send a letter in support of Senate Bill 1098, the Responsible Implementation of Flood Insurance Reform Act of 2013. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to withdraw this right now, this motion, and bring it back next week. What had happened, I talked to the senator's office. This is a bill on the flooding issues and the flooding insurance. And I talked to the senator myself a few weeks back, and I did have a packet sent out to the councilors through the clerk's office, and it was signed by the two senators from Massachusetts, the delegation, looking for some amendments. Well, those amendments have come in, but it's a new Senate bill itself. And I didn't get the Senate bill till about 5 o'clock last night. So I'm going to look it over this week, and I think I'm going to be putting it back on with the new bill next week for the council.
Okay.
You know, when
If there's no objection then to the motion being withdrawn, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, there are 3 motions by myself. If Councilman Johnson would take the chair.
Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager report on current street policy and development of complete streets policy with comprehensive public planning process to guide future design of street network as repaving is done and repairs made. Second by Councilor Mercier. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a conversation in which it was said that we have, in fact, a complete streets policy here in the city, which was a surprise to me. I've made motions prior to this to develop a complete streets policy, and I haven't seen it, and certainly haven't been asked to sign anything or to review anything. There was this notion included into the master plan, which I think is an important start to it, but of course it has to be actually implemented, and there have been projects in the city where there was an opportunity, I think, to apply those concepts, at least partially, to the design or redesign of various streets that hasn't taken place. So this is to get an update on what our policy is exactly right now, but more importantly, really to arrive at that idea of a complete streets policy where all forms of transportation is supported, whether it be walking, biking, public transit, or cars. And I think that's an important thing that, you know, as we've talked just last week about the paving lists, that as we move to update our streets, that there be designs in place that make sense for the long term, and that reconnect the street grid in a coordinated way, so that when we do have the resources through Chapter 90 funds, that we're able to update them based upon a very public process that incorporates a lot of input from the people that actually live on those streets, so that we have a way to implement a plan incrementally as the resources are available.
Councilor Noon? No, all right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager review and evaluate ordinances to identify and remove barriers to resource sharing and becoming a more resilient, shareable city. Seconded by Councilor Martin. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you. This idea is based upon the notion that there are resources within our community that are that could be better used when we're sharing with each other, and that can create stronger communities, more resilient communities to any number of shocks that a city might absorb. There are things like car sharing, home sharing even, and a number of ordinances that incorporate more traditional concepts of property ownership can be barriers to that kind of thing. So this is really to review our ordinances to see whether or not there couldn't be changes made that allow for this this kind of sharing that focuses more on really the ability of people to get the service that they want rather than just on property ownership. And so I would appreciate some kind of review by the administration to come back with some suggested changes and be able to further this. There are a number of initiatives happening throughout the city, including the Merrimack Valley Time Exchange, that are getting at this notion of a more shareable city, a more resilient city, where you're using resources more efficiently. The example that's sometimes made is of a screwdriver, which gets used maybe 20 minutes in its average lifespan, a bit more for tradespeople, but on average you get used about 20 minutes, and you pay lots of money to buy it. So rather than have that type of thing, you'd be able to share tools, share services, because it's a service that you want and not necessarily the means to that. So I'd appreciate a review there. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager develop application for planning staff to attend the 2014 Eco District Incubator. Seconded by Council Noon. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you. The motion speaks for itself, and I can forward the information.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I'm going to ask the mayor to resume the chair.
Thank you. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take a point of personal privilege to express my thoughts on a recent development involving a situation in the city that leaves me not only disturbed but embarrassed, and that is the findings of the retirement board, their decision. We probably will be gavelled down and say we can't say it, but it's a point of personal privilege.
Well, it's actually not a point of personal privilege. As the city solicitor has explained on a number of different occasions, point of personal privilege is for members who feel some kind of discomfort during the course of a meeting. It's not an avenue. It's not an avenue to simply bring up a new subject to discuss that's not on the agenda.
Well, I did feel discomfort while I was sitting here at a city council meeting to know that there's decisions being made on people that had, through no fault of their own.
You asked for a point of personal privilege, and that's not the appropriate request.
Well, I guess I'll make a motion next week and
that would
talk
be
about it.
That
well,
would be the appropriate
that is what I
avenue.
intend to do.
Okay, good. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have thoughts of my own, too. I assume similar to Councilor Mercy's, but I'll hold those till next week. But I do think it's appropriate that we recognize the service of Mr. Moses this evening. This is his last meeting. I think it's been widely reported that he's accepted a new position in the town of Hudson as, I believe, the town manager. I'm sure he'll do well there, and wish him well and thank him for his efforts here. I think he's done quite a good job. You know, the city's financial position is very strong, and I think that is in large part to his efforts. I mean, it's in large part, I think, to credit the city council, too, for some difficult decisions made along the way, but I think we've received some good advice and guidance from Mr. Moses. So, behalf of the council, we wish you well in your future endeavors, wish you success, and thanks for your good service here.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councilor Martin stole my thunder. I was going to make the big announcement that Mr. Moses was leaving us after tonight. He has one more day of work here, and he'll be starting his new position next week. But just to echo Councilor Martin, I think that, Tom was one of the first people I brought on back when I became city manager, so he's been with me now for 7 years, just 7 years and 1 month, I think, or 2 months, something like that. But when we look at the way the finances were in the city back in 2006 and where we are today, Tom has played the crucial role in making that happen. He's been a outstanding finance officer here for the city. I look at where we were then and where we are now with regards to our finances, where we are with our excess levy capacity. I can look at our bond rating. I can look at the removal from the watch list, and in fact the commendations we received from the Department of Revenue. I look at the budget document that Tom has put together. I asked him to put together more of a performance-based budget with more information and data that met up with the Government Finance Officers Association. We went from a 37-page budget to, I don't know, it's probably about 400 pages now, filled with information to help the City Council, help the administration, help the citizens understand where their tax dollars are going. Back then, the city had never really had a real capital budget. We now have a capital budget. We do fiscal forecasts now. We have financial policies. We've made vast improvements in our management letter. The successes we've had at the negotiation table with health insurance, the Amoresco project, and so many other ways. Tom has been at the core of that and has been a tremendous assistance to me as city manager. And I can't thank him enough and say enough for his work ethic and his commitment to this city. And I want to thank him publicly for that and wish him the best as he moves forward.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Of course, I had a citation to offer, which was much shorter than the remarks that the city manager gave on behalf of the city council, but I think they will suffice. And I know you'll treasure this on your shelf down in Hudson. So we appreciate your service, and at that, I would call for a motion to adjourn. So moved by Council Laurie, seconded by Council Kennedy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted.